You know, they're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you'll do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think? John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ doesn't
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show. I know we started late, but obviously, if you're cued into anything combat sports, you know it was the Conor McGregor Khabib Nurmagomedov press conference today, and boy was it interesting. Obviously, we're going to discuss that as well. You know, debate it, whatever it is, the complete pandemonium that was. Obviously, breaking news is tradition before the show starts. So, about maybe a couple hours ago, we got news, of course, of the undercard for Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and the pay-per-view, where it might be. All that stuff seems to be sort of spilling out to the media. Going to obviously discuss that one as well. Jon Jones, without a doubt, getting his suspension for obviously his second PED test from USADA. Going to dissect that one as well. A lot of news, a lot of stuff to debate and talk about. Again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Hit the like button to the show. Subscribe. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter, here to talk about all things boxing, MMA, and everything in between. Hipsters here, haters, beware. So I know Lord Jacob's in the chat, and he's going to give me some shit, you know? But anyways, damn, so much to get to. I don't even know where to start. I honestly don't know. Usually the show is boxing first if you're a new listener. MMA is second, and then obviously you can call in, discuss it at any time in the show. So let's say you're calling or you're listening right now. You don't want to wait till the second half of the show to discuss Jon Jones, USADA. You don't want to wait till the second half of the show to talk about Khabib and Conor McGregor. You can call in right now, and we'll skip some topics. Obviously, skip some of the boxing topics. Go to that to discuss it, whatever you want. Damn, just a lot to discuss, a lot to sort of break down. Again, my head's all over the place. I don't know where to begin with. But we are going to keep it traditional. It is boxing first. Obviously, I came from the Boxing Voice, so most listeners here know me for my boxing commentary. So that's where we will start. And even though the title does discuss Bob Arum, we did have breaking news before the show started, which is obviously the Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury news. Not really news, but rumors, information coming out via Lance Pugmire, etc. Talking about this event where it's going to be at, obviously Lance Pugmire from LA Times reported yesterday that LA and the Staples Center for December 1st is now a front runner for this pay-per-view card in December, obviously December 1st. And now he's come out and said that a source is telling him about the dream bouts, quotes, that he would like to see, or not he, but whoever this source is saying, the dream bouts under this headline for pay-per-view. And per Lance Pugmire in his Twitter account, saying, just told that the dream bouts under Bronze Bomber and Fury at Staples Center would be Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell Jr., featherweight unification, and an Abner Mars Gervonta Davis title fight. That'd be an epic pay-per-view. And then combine that with the news from Keith Idek, per Keith Thurman, etc., saying was assured by a source who would know that there's no way Keith Thurman would fight a 40-year-old Zab Judah in his get-back bout. If his hand is healed in time, Thurman could come back against someone else on the Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury undercard December 1st. So most likely what we're getting with this event, if it's all said and done, and actually news coming out right before the show, or actually right before the press conference, per Mike Coppinger saying, sources saying Wilder Fury is being finalized. An announcement on date, location is imminent. All signs pointing to this fight happening December 1st in Staples Center, which is actually a shock, kind of a weird to me. Obviously, the date they wanted, Las Vegas, was sort of booked up. Same with Barclays Center. So now they're going to Staples Center. I don't think it really has any bearing on the fight. To be honest, I think if they could, obviously that is their third choice. It would have been Vegas, then New York, then LA, and that seems to be where they went in terms of going down the list. And on top of that, the undercard being Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell Jr. in vacation, Adam Amari versus Gervonta Davis, rumors of a Keith Thurman, Josecito Lopez fight. This is sort of becoming a really good card. Obviously, individually, we can sort of maybe, pick apart some of these fights. Maybe not the the Gary Russell Jr. and Leo Santa Cruz fight. That fight on paper in the ring is 10 out of 10. That is one of the best fights to make, if not the best fight to make in the featherweight division, in my opinion. So I really don't think you can criticize that one. But obviously, Gervonta Davis, Abner Maris, you can critique. Keith Thurman, Josecito Lopez, or whoever he faces can be critiqued a little bit. Even the main event, obviously, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, that can be critiqued in and of itself. But I would say that top to bottom, this looks like one of the best cards we've had in some time, if it actually comes to fruition. Obviously, this is just rumors. This is just non-confirmed information by way of very reputable journalists. So obviously the information they're getting, whether it's right or wrong, we don't know. But these people are honest messengers. So I believe Lance Pugman, I believe Mike Coppinger, I believe Keith Idek when it comes to all these situations. So it seems, like I've said in the past, this fight's happening. And I brought this fight up way before it was even talked about that this fight makes sense. And on top of that, they've seemingly built up a phenomenal pay-per-view card. We really don't see that often in boxing. Like, we applauded Golden Boy rightly in their undercard for Canelo Alvarez Triple G2 because they had guys like Roman Gonzalez on the undercard, Jaime Munguia. Those are two guys that are, one's the past, one's the future in terms of Hispanic markets. But they are fixtures in that marketplace right now for boxing. So that was good to have them on the undercard. And on top of that, David Lemieux versus Gary Spike Sullivan was supposed to be an all-action fight against two top, 10 to 15 middleweights. So, on paper, that all looked like to be a fun undercard, and it turned out to be a fun undercard. While it all was slightly showcasey and a little bit mismatched in terms of how they paired up with each other in all those individual undercard bouts, this one seems a little bit better, a little more airtight, and also just bigger names. Like, let's be honest, Keith Thurman on the undercard along with Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell Jr., that's big. That is big. It may not be, obviously, what maybe Mayweather, Canelo, and Danny Garcia, Lucas Matisse was. I don't think we will ever see that. Not ever, but I don't think we're going to see that for some time, to be quite honest, just in terms of how the money plays out. But this is seemingly building up to a fantastic undercard. I cannot wait to see it. But moving on, because we do have tons of topics to get to, tons of stuff to get to. So again, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. If you are international, email me, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com to get the international free call-in link. Otherwise, hit that like button, subscribe, and share the show. Moving on to some more topics of the day. Sort of switching back to Canelo Triple G per Kevin Iole. Still no official Canelo Triple G boxing pay-per-view number. I'm hearing a 1 million to perhaps as much as 1.15 million buys. Pretty good sales in any event, but a bit lower lower than their first fight, Canelo Triple G2. I'll be honest. This was kind of where I predicted it to be. I thought I was going to do a little bit lower than the first one due to all the negative publicity around it, to be quite honest. And plus just the lack of promotion, the lack of build-up. Obviously, we're going to talk about the UFC 229 press conference later in the show, talk about build-up. This had none of that. None of that. in my opinion, you know? So I'm not surprised at it lower, around, depending who you ask, 150,000 to around 800,000 less pay-per-view buys, again, depending who you ask. That is a significant drop in money. Hunter Stone saying, did you watch the press? Yes, I did. I will talk about it in the second half of the show. I'm not surprised it did this drop. Obviously, it is a significant drop, but it still did over 1 million pay-per-view buys, according to Kevin Iole. Still a massive success, even though it wasn't as much of one as before. Again, not really much to sort of take away from this other than these reported numbers, or at least rumored numbers from Kevin Iole, not reported numbers. This whole show, obviously based off the title, when I scheduled it, the only thing out there in boxing was Bob Arum sending some shots to HBO and Showtime, and now it seems like that's a little bit pointless. But I know my man Anthony Walker's gonna be listening back when I know he has his own show to do right now over at ShowDog.com. But I know he's gonna be listening back to the show and he's gonna hear a dramatic reading and he's gonna be happy. So it's dramatic reading time. Get hyped. Yes, Bob Arum saying HBO and Showtime don't belong in boxing.
I want smoke.
Bobby, we hear you, man. Where you want smoke? Talking to a small group of reporters. Obviously talking about the speculation of HBO's future, and he was asked about it. He said, how can I say? What do I know? I'm saying HBO doesn't belong in boxing. Showtime doesn't belong in boxing. They're entertainment networks. And I think they're beginning to realize that. You don't spend money on an entertainment event that opens and closes on the same night. You don't spend money, which they don't anymore. That's the key. How many concerts do you see on HBO or Showtime? None. Both of them used to do that. Different philosophy. Now they're competition. For both is one competitor, and that's Netflix. Not Schmuck Boxing. Not ESPN. That's different. And I got stuff right there. Because at this point, I was reading it, and I'm thinking to myself, Bobby, I really do not know what you're talking about here. I vaguely understand their entertainment networks, but the rest of the line about them competing with Netflix, like I vaguely understand it, but come on, Bobby. Jay saying you should have started with recapping the press conference. No, I shouldn't have, because all you guys are late. See, Jay, you just got here, Jay. Don't worry about it. Okay, we will do it, Jay. Don't worry, Jay. Call in. I've been waiting for you to call in, Jay. Okay, because you always give me shit for callers ending shows early, air quotes. Okay, come on. I want that smoke, Jay.
I want smoke.
Let's go down to some more quotes, because it's awesome. This shit's just funny to me. And plus, there's some actual talking points we can take from this and discuss it further. But back to the dramatic reading. Let's be honest. Look what's happening. The premium networks saved boxing. They came in, they paid more than the networks, they took it over. We've been living off them for the last 20 years, right? Their time is over. Whoa, over? Really, Bobby? Why? Because they're entertainment networks. They make their money on entertainment, on Succession, on Sopranos, on Sex and the City, on Billions. By the way, editor's note right here. Just so you know, those are all TV shows, in case you're listening from outside the U.S. That's their business. It's stupid business for them to put money into boxing with the fights open and close the same night. After it's done, it has no more value to them. If you put that into a series in that original programming, and that series hits, then you can syndicate it for billions of dollars. HBO now realizes that, and you will see, in my opinion, HBO is out of boxing. And now the changes at CBS from former CEO Les Moonves, or whatever his name is, who resigned recently, to Joseph, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name. You'll see Showtime be out of boxing. But Heyman has Fox, which belongs in boxing. We have ESPN, which belongs in boxing. And 5 years from now, the linear platform won't mean shit. Everything will be streaming. Everything. Entertainment, sports, everything will be streaming. And just so you know, a sort of writer's note, CBS owns Showtime, and CBS also purchased Boxing Scene in June. I didn't know that, by the way. That was good to know, that CBS owns Boxing Scene. Interesting. And also when, he admitted that obviously Top Ranked worked off HBO and everything like that, and he said we all sucked off their tit, which I don't have a drum soundbite, I need to get that, but that's kind of what that was. And look, I'll be honest, he has some really good points here about the entertainment side of it, that HBO, and I've been talking about this a lot for HBO, maybe not as much as Showtime, but obviously they're analogous to each other, so we can make that comparison and juxtaposition. But HBO makes predominantly their money off of what? Game of Thrones, and obviously the syndication of past shows. Westworld, of course, right now as well. And he's right. Like, syndication for shows, and if you don't know what syndication means, let's say when a show is done airing, I go sell that show to Network A, and there's 87 different Network A's in 87 different countries I sell it to. And combining all that, you can make a lot of money off of the syndication of it. Let's say, like sitcoms like Friends or Seinfeld, stuff of that nature. Those shows are then resold to other networks, whether it be like TBS or other sort of common free networks in a sense, for large sums of money. You can't really do that with boxing, or at least that's not been done. I have not seen that done. For kind of obvious reasons, the rewatch value for live sports is greatly diminished than sitcoms and TV shows. It just is, unfortunately. Us hardcores may not understand that, but live sporting events have a lot of their value when it comes to being live. When it's no longer live, it loses a lot of its value. That's why syndication for fights never really has amounted to a lot of money. That's why fight libraries are usually pretty cheap to acquire if you are a big company like ESPN or the UFC, for example, for MMA promotions. So he has a really good point about that. Like, Bobby Arum was right about that these premium networks realize, or any network realizes, that syndication of sitcoms and TV shows equals a lot more money than boxing. It just does. But my sort of point about that would be that that's common sense. Like, Fox has TV shows that they syndicate. So Fox does that. So the argument, while there's individual aspects of it that are right, there's sense to it, the entire structure of it is false. His reasoning for why HBO would get out of the game would be why Showtime wouldn't re-up their deal with PBC, but they did. They extended it, increased it by 3 times. So I don't understand where Bobby is coming at here in the structure of his argument. Again, individual parts, I understand, and I've been talking about that for a long time, about how these premium networks, especially HBO, don't really value boxing over their obvious moneymakers in TV shows. Now, to his point about streaming, because I saw Bayside, our resident troll in the chat, said, my dream of streaming in the U.S. will not come to fruition. It will. Netflix has already achieved some of that. Like, that aspect of his argument about them competing with Netflix is slightly right. Like, Showtime and HBO are competing with Netflix in a way. Look at the amount of premium content, or I should say original content, original IPs that Netflix is putting out. HBO and Showtime have to match that in some way in order to keep their subscriber rates. They do. But anyways, shout out to Bob Arum, because he's hilarious. And God bless him, because he is like the old grandpa that is just in front of the media talking. And I love it. And obviously, if you did not know, if you're not on the Twitter game, Oscar De La Hoya already had a clapback for Bob Arum, saying, "What are you talking about, Bob?" Oh, God.
I want smoke.
HBO Boxing is the strongest brand in boxing today. Not true. Pulls in the best ratings, bar none. Not true. I love this part. At Steven Espinoza is doing good things at Showtime as well. Hashtag who watches ESPN Plus. And we're going to get to some of the ESPN Plus news later, because we finally have a number for their subscriber count. But obviously there's aspects here where, oh, hold on. I just realized Cameron cannot hear me in the live, or should I say the international phone queue. Now you can hear me, Cameron. Sorry about that. I didn't realize I was muted on that link. But digressing, yeah, I definitely believe that Oscar here in this in this tweet is sort of showing his hand here that he's in good talks with HBO to renew maybe a Canelo deal. That would be interesting, or at least he's leaving that option open. And also him mentioning Steven Espinoza, I think is him saying that I still have options open. But him coming after ESPN is odd. That is odd to me because he has some sort of deal with ESPN. He does. So, again, going after Bob kind of makes sense. But you defending HBO is odd. And then in the next sentence, bigging up Showtime, which is their competitor, it just seems very weird, in my opinion, from Oscar De La Hoya. But he's been posting IG videos of him dancing on golf courses all day. So God knows what he's doing. But this just seemed just odd to me from Oscar De La Hoya. But moving on. So we're going to run through these quick topics in MMA or quick news things and then get to, obviously, the Jon Jones USADA suspension and the UFC 229 presser, which we have not talked about yet. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. Or like Cameron in the international call-in link, email me, mixcombatradio@gmail.com. Get that free international permanent call-in link. It makes it very easy for you guys, whether you're in the UK or other places. But yeah, so let's get to it. Lomachenko-Pedraza has shifted to the MSG on December 8th, and they are having new plans, allegedly, for a forum event in LA the same day as the alleged Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury fight. I think that's going to get scrapped, personally. That's why they moved it to MSG on the next week to sort of not compete with that, in my opinion. So that's really all I have to say about that one. That's sort of my conspiracy theory about the matter. Adonis Stevenson versus Alexander Vajdic card coming together. It will be at the Videotron Center in Canada on December 1st. So same day as Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, allegedly. That might be a little bit of a competition there in terms of ratings. Though I do not know if this will be a Showtime card. I'm almost positive it is. But I feel like I'm wrong about that. So maybe when Cameron calls in, I'll quickly look up what network this fight's on and see how it will sort of compare with Wilder Fury. And on top of that, just a lot of weirdness with the December dates. Like, there's a lot of seemingly doubling up on events. There's only 4 weeks in that month, so there's not much to sort of go about. Cameron, I see you in the call link. I don't know if you want to come in now or after the Jon Jones and UFC 229 stuff, after I talk about that stuff. So tell me in the chat, text me, whatever it is, let me know. But moving on, so we can sort of get to, obviously, the breaking news of yesterday and today. Michael Benson has reported that Manuel Char has tested positive for epitrambolone I'm not even going to try to pronounce these two anabolic steroids, but his fight with Fresno Cuendo has been called off, and he most likely will be stripped of his regular belt. I could care less about that, but I just want to report to all of us that, thank God, this is not happening. Now let's get to MMA topics of the day, because it's just, this obviously was breaking news today. Jon Jones having given a 15-month retroactive suspension after an arbitration with USADA. There's a lot to sort of dissect here, in my opinion. And I really don't know how to feel about it, because obviously I've been of the mindset that these players involved, whether it be Canelo for his PD issues, and Vegas judging, etc., or Jon Jones in the USADA case, for example. These are guys where they are not the villain in the story. They are not the ones causing this systemic issue that we see, where guys like Tom Lawler pop for their first time and get a 2-year suspension. Jon Jones pops a second time and gets a 15-month suspension. You know, like there is an obvious system issue here. And again, these players are not the villains here. They are not the reasons why we have the systemic issues. We have a basic rule set and structure with PD regulation as a whole, sanctioning as a whole, that is flawed. That leads to inconsistency, loopholes, and where you're a guy like Jon Jones, where you have the capital, you have the resources to defend yourself, you can take advantage of those loopholes. Take advantage of the inconsistencies. Press the levers of the system in order to make sure that you get a better sort of punishment than you would have. You know, Lyoto Machida literally wrote down what supplements he was taking, not knowing it was a banned substance, and they gave him 2 years. First time. Jon Jones comes out here, says, "Oh, I really was trying to get off it. I didn't, I had no intention of doing it." He obviously has now come out and, per USADA, has given them information that could lead to either other users, other suppliers, whatever it may be, but he has given them some sort of information. We don't know what that information is that has led to over a 30-month reduction in his suspension. There's a lot to sort of thread here, and I really don't know how to sort of piece it together other than, again, I've been sort of echoing this for a while. This is going to sound, redundant at this point if you've been listening to this show for any period of time. We need to start fixing this issue. And it's not the issue of Jon Jones, it's the issue of PD regulation. And Jon Jones is just a symptom of it. He is not the disease. The disease is the regulatory system we have. And this is on top of an indirect correlation of the IOC now bringing back basically the Russian USADA, which is called RUSADA, I believe is the acronym, which was suspended for a period of time, obviously due to all the Russian doping issue that's been going on in the past decade or so. They have announced that they're going to sort of bring that back under the fold. I don't know his exact position at the IOC, but he's come out and basically said there's little we can do right now to curb doping in sports. And this is the IOC and WADA we're talking about. This is the highest level of PED regulation that USADA, that VADA, that they all follow. And they are saying that their system is flawed and we don't know what to do, so we're going to accept these bad actors into the system again. Like, are we shocked here that Jon Jones got a 15-month suspension? No, we shouldn't be. And I don't think we should really be mad at him either. Like, it's the system we should be mad at, not Jon Jones. I know I sound like a broken record, but I need to bang that into all of your guys' heads. I don't think enough people are saying that. People are just mentioning Jon Jones, mentioning, all these individual cases. It's not these individual cases that's the issue. It's the system that's the issue. To take it a little more specific into Jon Jones, what this could mean for him, his suspension's up October 28th, I believe is the exact date. Obviously, about maybe 2 weeks before the UFC 230 pay-per-view card in Madison Square Garden, an event that me and people like Anthony Walker from ShareDog on this show have talked about. It's most likely going to be Jon Jones on that main event. All we needed was USADA to give him a suspension that would not overlap with that event, and they did that. And Dana White saying that Jon Jones 100% will not be on UFC 230 is just Dana White being Dana White. He doesn't want to deal with the PR nightmare that it is. And I can understand that. But it seems like Jon Jones is going to be the main event at UFC 230. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Daniel Cormier. He said he will wait for, obviously, the Brock Lesnar fight, which he should. That's more money. I understand it. But yeah, Jon Jones, UFC 230 against Alexander Gustafsson for an interim title, potentially. And on top of that, he got a 15-month suspension, retroactive, to sort of reiterate the particulars of the case for giving out information we do not know of, whether you want to call it flipping, snitching, whatever word you want to use. He did it. It's a rule that's been in there for as long as USADA has been around, so this is not something that they made up for him. But again, when you have the right lawyers, the right team around you, you know which levers to push in the system. You do. Let's move on to the press conference today. UFC 229, Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, or I should say Khabib versus Conor McGregor. This was odd. This was really odd. Just sort of gather my thoughts. First off, the fact that there was no crowd at this press conference made it seem just so weird and almost deranged. Like, it was a bipolar event. And you can use like the press conference and Conor McGregor synonymous with what I'm about to talk about, because Conor McGregor was the press conference. He was. It was the entire thing. He went from the first question and did not stop. Whether it be sending shots at the UFC and Dana White, whether it's Khabib and Ali Abdelaziz, whether it be Chechnya versus Dagestan, whatever it was, he was sending shots from the rip. And there was times where it was funny, there was times where it was okay, where it was the usual Conor show, but there's times where it seemed bipolar. And I'm using that clinical term specifically. It seemed bipolar. And then on top of it, the political lines that were touched, it just seems dangerous. It truly does seem dangerous. You know, when you bring up to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is a Russian citizen, you know, are you disrespecting Vladimir Putin? Are you disrespecting your president? Live, online, in front of millions of people, because it peaked at over 500,000 concurrent live viewers. God knows what the total number will be. It seems dangerous. Playing on the Kadyrov Chechen dictator line. Again, all things that are true. Like, there's some value to what Conor is saying. Karim Zidane has done a phenomenal job of reporting on stuff like this. Mike Russell also has done a phenomenal job reporting on stuff like this. Go read their reports, their journalistic work on matters that Conor McGregor touched on and sort of took advantage of in a way. And again, it just seems like these are people we should not be sort of joking with. We're talking about dictators, mass murderers, people that are scrupulous characters, to say the least. So that makes me that makes me just edgy overall, like unnerved about what is happening. However, am I now more hyped about this fight? Yes. Am I now more excited to see it? Absolutely. I don't know how to sort of address those two conflicting thoughts in my head, where part of this press conference was downright ugly. Like this, if you were showing a casual fan that never have seen MMA before, this press conference said this is MMA, they would probably have a very negative opinion about this sport. Let's be honest here. Now, we can always, laugh at the theater of it. Conor going in talking about his new whiskey, Proper 12, whatever it's called, and basically it being a long-running commercial for it. We can joke about that one guy in the hat that clearly was a fan that snuck in as media. Salute to him. That takes guts. There's just a lot to sort of take from this event, and I'm conflicted about it. I'm hyped for it. I'm conflicted about being hyped for it. Again, this is a Conor McGregor press conference. This isn't the first time it's been like this. Obviously, this time it seems a little bit more visceral because there wasn't that crowd atmosphere to where it makes it seem like theater. I said that on Twitter. When Conor has that crowd to work off of, it seems more like WWE. It seems more like a show. When it's just Conor yelling and going from trying to offer Khabib a drink and a hug to, I'm going to fucking kill you, you rat bastard, yelling at him, spitting at him, it seems deranged. It seems bipolar. And I'm going to keep using those terms because that's what it seemed like. Obviously, cocaine jokes have been all over the place, and I'm not going to stop them. They're funny. Him drinking on stage in training camp, obviously we can maybe discuss that, but just a lot of weirdness with this press conference. It was a massive one, probably their biggest press conference to date, and yet it was the most... It would probably go down as one of the most infamous ones as well. and I don't know how to feel about that. But I want to know how Cameron Gillen over at BoxingMonthly.com feels about that one. Cameron, are you there? As you unmute yourself.
Yeah, I've got my. Can you just tell me if you get feedback? So I've got my earphones in today, man.
Perfect. You're good.
Right. Yeah, man. Where do you want to start?
Wherever you want to start, man. There's so much to sort of talk about today. Wherever you want to, you go. This is your platform right now.
I feel the Jon Jones situation is one I really want to talk about because it's just. I tweeted you. I think it was you. I tweeted that Jon Jones seems to have 100 lives.
Yes.
He just seems to get off with everything, man. I mean, you got Jones who, this whole thing's been very quiet recently, and now all of a sudden it's come out of nowhere and breaking that. He's back. At the end of October, he's eligible to fight again. Whereas you got Fabricio Verdum, who straight away got popped and he's been banned for 2 years. We've seen Jones's history. It's not the first time he's popped, and he just seems to come back. And obviously, it's due to his stature as a fighter and draw. Obviously, there's been talks of him fighting at Madison Square Garden. I know that Dana White said in that press conference today that Jones won't be fighting at that event. It'll most likely be the start of next year because Jones is quite heavy, but I don't believe that. If Jones really wanted to, he could fight a heavyweight against anybody. I know that Gustafsson called him out. I'd like to see that fight. I think that's a rematch that a lot of people want to see. So I'm glad Jones is back, but at the same time, it's like you got to get some structure here with this whole USADA thing. It seems to be one rule for one fight and one rule for another. And I don't know, man. I feel like you saw Khabib come out on Twitter saying USADA's #1 bullshit. I think a lot of other fighters have said similar.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like this whole situation's kind of a lot of people don't like USADA anyway, but I feel like this whole Jones situation has really put a huge sort of black shadow over it. And I don't know, man. As much as I like Jones and, I think, he is the greatest fighter of all time, I just don't agree with the way he's gone about it.
Agreed. There's not much really to distinguish there from my opinion to yours. It's basically the same. Jon Jones, whatever you think about him, is still probably, the best MMA fighter of all time, top 3 MMA fighter of all time. It's good to have him in the sport. I think the sport needs him. That division needs him. But we have issues with USADA. We have questions for USADA right now that they need to answer, and they're not answering it right now, and they won't answer them because they lack real transparency. And yes, we did get the official sort of like hearing, like not press release, but whatever it's called. I'll post the link in the description of this video after the show is over, so you guys can read it if you're listening. But that's not transparency enough. And there is a direct monetary relationship between the UFC and USADA. And because there is a lack of structure with their rule set and its implementation of it, I think the time when we as a community valued USADA or just PD regulation as a whole, it's over. Like, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of looking. I mean, I know, like I said that just now. I know Dana White said that Jones won't be fighting at 230, but I don't believe that. I feel like if Jones is eligible, and we're talking about Madison Square Garden. You look at the last 2 fights. You had McGregor headline the first, then you had the GSP headline the second. So Madison Square Garden has been sort of the home of the last sort of 2 events they've had there have been headlined by the 2 of the biggest draws of all time. So now, where do they go? I mean, they were talking about Woodley versus Covington. I mean, that's not really the best headliner, especially when you have like Jones there to fight. So let's be real. I'll ask you: can you really see a situation where they don't put Jones as the main event of 230?
No, I do not. It's going to be Jon Jones. It's going to be at UFC 230. They're going to wait a week or 2 till it kind of blows over and there's less sort of pressure on Dana White about it. He's not at a press conference filled with media about it, and they're going to announce it. And it's either going to be a Jon Jones heavyweight fight where he's fighting God knows who, or it's going to be a Gustafsson rematch, which probably makes the most sense for an interim title. And like you said, like I've said, we're gonna buy it. We're gonna watch it. And the UFC is not going to learn its lesson. USADA is not going to learn its lesson. It's just one of those situations here where I think there's really no win here for us, the consumers, other than we get to see Jon Jones again, which take that for what it is.
There was also talks of I've seen rumblings, no pun intended, but I've seen rumblings of Jones actually fighting Anthony Johnson in next. Because I saw there's a post on Instagram on Jones' Instagram of him and Anthony Johnson having a face off a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Johnson's, he did an interview, maybe I can't remember which outlet it was, but he did an interview a few days ago, and he said that he wouldn't say never say never to a comeback if the price is right. Let's be honest, he would come back if it was to fight Jon Jones. We know that 100%. And you see, I don't know if you've seen him, but
Mm-hmm.
he's been doing all this bodybuilding. He's a big guy. He always was, but he's talking about being a heavyweight if he came back. I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if Jones fought a Rumble, a heavyweight, in a comeback fight. And if it did happen, I wouldn't be against that fight. That was obviously hyped a few years ago. That was the fight when Jones beat Cormier. That was the fight they had. They had that press conference at the Go Big event. So I wouldn't be against that fight. I know Gustafsson sort of called him out on Twitter. That rematch is always going to be there. I know Cormier said he's looking at Brock Lesnar, but let's be honest, Cormier will take that fight. Jones has got options if he comes back. A lot of people are going to want to fight him. So, whoever it's against, I'm sure it'll be a big fight. But at the end of the day, just Jones coming back against anybody will sell. So it has to be the main event for 230.
Yeah, I don't see him coming back as a non-main event. Just with the way the lineup is right now in the year, I don't see it. He's gonna be the main event at UFC 230. Like, I know Dana White is gonna say no, and he always does this, but it's gonna happen. All signs point to Jon Jones coming back at UFC 230. But I want you to take on this. I assume you watched the press conference for Conor McGregor Khabib, Cameron.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I watched that, man. 100%.
Thoughts on it?
I pretty much echo what you said. I thought, the fact they didn't let the fans in really tarnished it. I thought, because it just felt weird. McGregor going on his rants to Khabib, and it was just dead atmosphere. Whereas before, we see it with Aldo, Diaz, Alvarez, at those press conferences when he was kind of going in on them and trash talking. The fans got involved, and it just really kind of got the hype of it going, and he fed off that. Whereas this time, it's just him standing up, pointing that Khabib ran in, and just, like you said, it was kind of bipolar. 1 minute he was offering him a drink with his whiskey, and next minute he was saying he was going to kill him, basically. And I don't know, man. I thought Khabib acted exactly how I thought he would. Khabib's not going to sit there and he's not going to listen to Conor. I think if there's one guy, I wrote on Twitter actually, if there's one guy who McGregor's sort of trash talk isn't going to break mentally, it's going to be Khabib. Although I thought when McGregor was talking about his religion and things like that, I felt that maybe, got Khabib's attention a bit, judging by sort of his face and his sort of reaction to it, body language. But because Khabib did eventually start getting into it, he did start talking back, and he did start saying he was going to smash him and everything like that. Whereas at first he was kind of subdued and he was kind of just listening to Conor and letting him rant. So I thought the press conference was kind of weird. I thought McGregor was, I said on Twitter as well, I said when McGregor first came on the scene, I thought, when he kind of got back into the spotlight for the first time, when he fought, Mendes and Aldo, his trash talking was much better to listen to. I felt, he wasn't he was ruthless, but he was calm and collected. He wasn't it wasn't like he was saying out of emotion. Whereas now you feel like he gets quite emotionally invested into it, and he just kind of repeats the same lines. So I feel like, McGregor kind of went overboard a bit. I thought, he was definitely drinking before this press conference, you have to say. I mean, he was just completely going off it. So I don't know, man. It was kind of as expected from Khabib. McGregor, not so much. I thought he went a bit overboard, but I'm with you. I'm more hyped about the fight now. So, at the end of the day, it was all about Conor McGregor. These press conferences are always about Conor McGregor. Khabib's never been a trash talker. But I'm still picking Khabib to win this fight. It's not changed my opinion of it. But I just feel like the press conference, it is what it is. I felt they made a mistake not getting the fans in. I do feel like that.
Yeah, and then plus when they first walked out, Conor McGregor and Khabib, they panned, and I don't know how it was set up. It looked like a weird setup where the UFC stage was actually facing the radio music hall stage, and the media was set up there. That's what it looked like. So behind the stage of the UFC, you have the entire radio music hall theater. So all the seats, all empty, is right there. right behind Conor McGregor and Khabib. It was just a weird setting. Obviously, Conor was not happy about the fans not being there. That was the first thing he said. I forget what the question was related to, but he just started ranting about Dana White. One other moment, I should say, that I saw Khabib get frustrated, I would say, was the whole Vladimir Putin dig was from Conor McGregor. That seemed to either upset or make Khabib uneasy, which for obvious reasons, playing up Chechnya, Russia, Dagestan political lines in certain places will get you hurt or worse. I just don't know. I don't know where you go from here. Like, I don't know if, let's say, fight week, do we have the press conference where you actually have fans there? And does anyone tell Conor, hey, let's not be so crazy? And should he be crazy? Like, is this just going to sell the fight? Like, is this just Conor being Conor at this point? Because like you said, maybe when Conor first started, it was a little more subdued, and he sort of worked his way up to this level of derangement for press conferences. But for the last couple of fights, it's been like this, in my opinion. Like, this is just Conor McGregor being Conor McGregor. Like, I've seen people say, like, oh, Conor's he himself seems uneasy by doing so much of this sort of lambastic showmanship. But that's just him. I think that he really believes if he does this, XYZ of shit talking, he will sort of ruin Khabib's mental space. And whether it works or not, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work with Khabib. But I also don't think that really has much bearing on the fight when it does happen.
I agree with that. I mean, I kind of thought, McGregor was a completely different trash talker when he was fighting Mendes and Aldo. And even Dos Anjos, I feel like, the Diaz sort of, that Diaz sort of 2 fights with Diaz kind of really changed his trash talk. And that's when it kind of changed. I feel like, you saw in the second Diaz fight, Diaz, that press conference where Diaz got up and they walked off and they started throwing the bottles. I feel like that situation, that was when McGregor started getting sort of really emotional. And since then, I feel like he's not really changed. Even with Alvarez, I thought, that New York press conference when they did the first one, I thought even then he was kind of acting very similar. I feel like McGregor is, let's be honest, doesn't matter who you are. Once you get to this sort of level where McGregor's at, it is going to change you. Yeah, when he fought Aldo Mendes, he was nowhere near he wasn't making the money then. It was his first pay-per-views. A lot's changed for him and his life. So it doesn't surprise me. I just find it a bit more difficult to listen to him now. I kind of cringe sometimes at some of his lines. When he kind of says the same sort of stuff, I feel like it's kind of repetitive. But let's be honest, he knows what he's doing because even if we don't like him, we're still all tuning in. Like, in the day, we're still watching him. So he's doing something right. So it'll be interesting to see how many it does. I mean, it's a big fight. I mean, they were talking about lack of promotion up until this point. I know the fight's 2 weeks away, which is kind of interesting that they've done a press conference this soon to the fight when they're going to do another one in 2 weeks' time anyway. They should have done this earlier. I mean, I think they announced it, a month ago when they did the that big press conference with all the fighters and things. And they announced it, I think it was about a month ago. They really should have done one about a week after that. So I feel like they were just going to do another press conference in 10 days or something anyway. So no, it was fun to listen to, and I'm excited for the fight. Let's just hope that everything stays in place and nobody pulls out.
I agree. I definitely agree with that, man. Let's just pray the MMA gods not ruin this one. Let's move over to some boxing. Get your take on the Wilder Fury undercard, or at least the rumors of it. Does that sort of pique your interest at all?
Yeah, it definitely does. What was the fights? It was
Leo Santa Cruz.
Davis,
Tank Davis versus Abner Mares, Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell Jr., and then Keith Thurman's been alleged to be on the card for a while.
I mean, that's a great fight. Cruz Russell's a fight I've been clamoring for ages now. I mean, those guys, Gary Russell Jr. has been doing nothing at featherweight since he's become champion. He's just been fighting manager challengers once a year, and he's been a wasted talent, I feel. I think this guy could be, I mean, I fought for a while, and I still stand by it. I think he could be the best featherweight. I feel like, this fight should have been made a while ago. Two PBC guys, both got world titles, unification, and this division's been lacking a unification for a long time now. I can't remember the last time we had a featherweight unification. It's definitely not been for the last handful of years. So this fight, I'm glad this fight's happening. It'll be the first time for a long time that Russell's fought twice in a year as well, in a calendar year. So I'm glad that fight's been made. That fight could headline its own PBC card. Let's be honest, it's a great fight. You know, two in their prime fighters, world titles. So yeah, I mean that's the fight that I want to see at the featherweight division. So I'm glad that's on. Tank Davis against Abner Mares. I know Mares is coming off a loss. I think it's a good fight for Tank Davis, to be honest. I thought Mares looked good against Cuellar. I know it's Cuellar and Tank beat him, but at the end of the day, Abner Mares, I thought he looked good. So, I don't think he's completely done yet. I know he got beat by Santa Cruz, but Cruz is, he's proven to be a level higher. So I'm like that fight. It's a good undercard. I mean, let's be honest, we're not expecting Keith Thurman to fight anybody, legitimate, are we? In his comeback fight, they were talking about Zab Judah. I mean, that was just, God, I'm glad that fight's not happening. That would have been a shambolic fight. I'd like to see Thurman fight somebody like. People were talking about Andre Berto, but I might be wrong, but I think they're quite good on the outside. I think they're quite good friends, Thurman and Berto. So I can't see that fight happening. Maybe Thurman fights somebody like. When's the Ortiz John Molina fight?
Ooh. I can look up when it is quickly. I can do that.
If that's like fairly soon, it wouldn't surprise me if Thurman fought the winner of that. If the winner comes out unscathed, it really wouldn't. Especially if it was Ortiz, it wouldn't surprise me if Thurman fought the winner of that fight. If that fight's before the end of October, I could see that fight happening. But I guess it depends. When are they targeting this 3 wild fight? Is it the start of December, right?
Yes, December 1st is when they're going to target the Wilder Fury fight. September 30th is going to be the Ortiz John Molina Jr. fight. So next week. So that is possible.
They don't have time to get that fight. They've got 2 months to prepare for a firm. It wouldn't surprise me. PBC guys. And let's be fair, it's a fight where if he fights Molina or Ortiz, it should be a knockout sort of highlight for Thurman, especially if it's Ortiz. Thurman's going to knock Ortiz out. And that'll kind of build the hype around Thurman's return if he knocks someone like Ortiz out. No, it's Victor Ortiz, but, if Thurman comes back and gets a knockout win, it's kind of what he needs. So I feel like in that sense, because of that sort of aspect that he could build that fight on, I feel like Thurman could fight Ortiz if he beats Molina.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get an easy fight for Keith Thurman, as he should. I mean, he's been gone for nearly 2 years now. He's had injuries, had surgeries. Like, it's kind of earned to get a tune-up sort of fight to make him look good. And if it's a name like a Victor Ortiz, John Molina, or others, at least it's a name we know. Zab Judah, though, I mean, I don't want that name that we know. That one is a little bit too past the expiration date, in my opinion. But, I mean, it is what it is. If Keith Thurman is the first fight up on that pay-per-view card and it has, like you said, Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell Jr., that alone is worth the money. Like, you could put just Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and Leo versus Gary Russell on that card, and I would pay the full $65 for HD for that event. Because, like you said, Leo Santa Cruz versus Gary Russell Jr. is probably the best fight to make in that division. It's going to determine the #1 featherweight in the world. Even though it may be a little more of a hardcore fight, technically speaking, that fight should be insane to watch. How they styles match up. It should be just one of the great fights we see of the year, in my opinion, if it does happen. Cameron, any more opinions or takes on anything in the boxing MMA world? Maybe something I haven't touched on?
I mean, I was kind of, I wanted to talk about, obviously the Joshua fights this weekend. I kind of wanted to talk about, just briefly, the hype around this fight. I know that they've not nowhere near sold out the arena for this fight. And I think it's the first stadium that Joshua's not sold out. And I spoke to a few casual friends of mine today, and if you ask them to name 3 fighters off the top of their head that aren't, kind of the elite, that they wouldn't be able to call, wouldn't be able to name any fighters. They don't know boxing at all. They'll pay for a Joshua fight. Or Kano GGG, that's it. And this is the first time they're actually not buying a Joshua pay-per-view. And I think that's kind of telling because I feel like a lot of casual fans have kind of switched off from Joshua because of the last few performances, especially the Parker fight. I kind of gave him the benefit of doubt after the Takam fight because it was short notice. And Takam, he was originally fighting Pulev, and Pulev was starting a completely different fight than Takam. So I gave him the benefit of doubt. But against Parker, he stuck the joint out. And for me, I just can't get hyped for this Povetkin fight. It's a great fight. Povetkin's a top 3 heavyweight. He has been for a long time. But I just can't get excited. can't get any interest in it. I mean, we're 2 days away now, less than 48 hours away, and I'm just struggling to get into this. You know, I didn't watch the press conference today. I'll be watching a fight. Obviously, everyone will be watching a fight, but this is for the first time in a while I've not been that interested in the Joshua fight, and I feel like he needs to make a statement in his fight, because if he does another job where it's kind of a boring 12-round fight, I don't think it's going to be very good for him. You know, let's be fair, a lot of people kind of switched off that Wilder fight after the Parker fight because, you know, they didn't look great. So I feel like Josh needs to go in and make a statement this weekend against Povetkin. I feel stylistically, if he wants to, he can take risks and he can try and get Povetkin out of there. Because Povetkin is old, you know, he is old. I feel like Joshua needs to make a statement, like I said. He needs to go in there and he needs to do a real job on him. If he can be the first man to get Povetkin out of there, stop him legitimately, none of these, you know, sort of BS stoppages that he got against Klitschko and Takam, then I feel like it will set him up nicely for a Wilder fight or a Fury fight next year. So, like I said, I feel like, I don't know what you think, but I feel like there's quite a lot of hype that's deflated around Joshua this year, mostly because of the performances, but I feel like a lot of people blame for the Wilder situation happening as well.
It's interesting to sort of piece together like what is the major factor, because I think you're right. Like your fundamental thesis of the deflation of AJ, whether it be this specific fight or just overall right now, that it doesn't seem to be that much hype around him. I think you're right about that. What is the major contributor to that? I don't know. Could it just be the Carlos Takam, Joseph Parker fights back to back, which were not that great, especially off the heels of the Vladimir Klitschko fight of the decade that it was called? A lot of people expected a lot from AJ, and I think a lot of people just thought too much of it. Like they expected too much from AJ, and now he really hasn't delivered on that. I don't know if it's that more so than Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, that whole stealing the spotlight, the negotiation process with Wilder. What is sort of the PR, blowback from that for AJ? I don't know. It's hard to quantify that. Whatever it is, it might just be all three, and we have no idea which one is the major contributor. I think it is all three. There might be a clear one that's more ahead, but I don't see it. I don't see one that is clearly the major contributor as to that deflation of hype. But it's all these things. It's the lack of fun fights recently from AJ. It is the whole tiresome negotiation process with Wilder. And it's also Wilder going and getting a more exciting matchup with Tyson Fury than Povetkin. And that was sort of a rabbit out of the hat that no one expected. Therefore, that stole all the shine. I think it's a little bit of everything, a little bit equal as well. I don't think there's one that's clearly the major contributor. But I think your fundamental thesis is right. There is deflation. I don't feel that hyped for an AJ fight. I keep having to remind myself that AJ's fighting this weekend.
Yeah, same.
I keep forgetting it's AJ fight week. I know that might be odd for some of our listeners out there, but like Cameron, I didn't watch the press conference. Why would I see the press conference? Is it going to be interesting? Is it going to be entertaining? Are we going to learn new facts about AJ's business and acumen? No, we aren't. There's nothing enlightening about an AJ press conference. Okay, and then on top of that, like I don't watch media workouts. Like I'm as a media member, I don't need to see a guy hitting pads at 20%. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't go to media workouts, man. Like, I've had media credentials. I've not gone to media workouts. It just doesn't interest me. Even press conferences don't interest me. I wrote on Twitter earlier after the McGregor Khabib press conference. UFC makes boxing press conferences look just amateurish.
Yes.
They know what they're doing. I've said that on Twitter. I can get hyped about a UFC press conference regardless of who's there. It can be Jon Jones, Cormier, anybody. The media, they work ways around to get fighters to exchange with each other and make it interesting. Whereas with boxing, it's just very sort of structured. It's very scripted. The fighters, it's all very ordered. The promoters talk, then the fighters do a statement. It's just bad. So I feel like in that sense, I can watch UFC press conference more than boxing. I feel like boxing could take a leaf out of UFC's book. But yeah, man, I'm going to shoot. I'm going to listen to the rest of the show. So take it easy, man, and appreciate having me on.
Thank you, Cameron. You can always go check out Cameron Gillen's work at boxingmonthly.com. And obviously follow him on Twitter. A great follow on Twitter if you're in the boxing media or just MMA sphere. You want to, sort of get that side of the world and that perspective of it from a unique perspective, check out Cameron Galen. Great stuff over there. We're going to wrap up this show with some last topics that are brief. Not much to discuss here, but we do have some ESPN Plus news to get to. Finally, we get a number. And I know not everyone cares, but ESPN Plus, per their own press release, has hit 1 million paid subscribers in just over 5 months. Now, obviously, this sounds great. 1 million subscribers in 5 months. That's a huge gain. That really is. But, however, obviously, ESPN Plus is seemingly their answer to the decline in subscribers on their television platform, right? The linear platform. Per Jed Goodman, ESPN Plus now has 1 million subscribers, like we just said. Last year estimate showed that cable subscribers paid an estimated $7.21 for ESPN, $9.06 to include ESPN2, ESPNU, SEC Network. Obviously, ESPN Plus is $5 just for you sort of heads to get around. You're sort of paying almost around the same price for ESPN as ESPN Plus. And also over the last 5 months, ESPN itself has lost more than an estimated 860,000 subscribers. Again, these figures are estimates. That's what Jed says. Sort of combine these two. ESPN Plus gaining 1 million subscribers, but also losing 860,000 subscribers via the linear platform. So, because you're losing 860 subscribers that are paying $2 plus more on average for the linear platform, and you're only gaining 1 million, you're not really, it's not that big of a deal as much as they probably want to say. I don't mean to sort of be a hater or a critic or, but it needs to be. Obviously, their own press release isn't going to have this information, have these statistics for you, but it's there. ESPN Plus, while obviously gaining a lot of subscribers, their actual TV network is losing a ton, almost equal amounts. And this ratio needs to be a little bit more on one side. They need to start gaining more subscribers for ESPN Plus than losing subscribers for ESPN. That just makes obvious sense because the subscribers you gain for ESPN Plus are paying less amount than your subscribers for your linear platform. But yeah, just sort of get a last look at it. Yep. Interesting statistics, to say the least. And speaking of statistics, over at Streaming Observer, an average UFC broadcast is about 6 hours long with only 2 hours of fighting. Come on. Shout out to the Fox Sports 1 pacing. Love that shit. Anything else we have to get to? Let me see. Yes, 2 last topics to get to very quickly before we head out here. Mark Hunt has accepted Gokhan Saki's challenge for a farewell fight at UFC Adelaide. I love this matchup. Please make it happen. I think it makes perfect sense for Mark Hunt and Gokhan Saki at this point, to be completely honest. And to unfortunately leave on some sad news, some unfortunate news. Black Zillion's founder, Glenn Robinson, has died from an apparent heart attack. Rest in peace to Glenn Robinson. Condolences to his family and friends. He was a prominent MMA manager for a long period of time. Rest in peace to you, Glenn Robinson. It is rather unfortunate to have so much passing here recently. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Unfortunately, we had Blog Talk go down. I'm sorry about that. It happens. Blog Talk does that sometimes. But the whole system went down. I don't know what happened to my internet. Whatever. But YouTube went down for a period of time. The Google Hangout went down for a period of time. And it looks like Blog Talk just didn't come back up. But anyways, make sure you guys call in and not have that happen to you, Santiago. Email me, mixhelmetradio@gmail.com. Get that international free permanent call-in link that you can use domestically. It is free. It's permanent. You can listen live on the show in clear, crystal quality, unlike Blog Talk. And also get your points off. So anyways, I'll be back later tomorrow, same time as always, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. in the UK. Hit the like button, share the show on the way out. Subscribe, patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. What else? That's about it. Leave a review on iTunes. Peace.